Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wii Edu Breakfast. I am your host, Linda Parsons, with...
Good morning, it's Philippa Rosewell. I don't think we've co-hosted one like this before, have we? I think it's the first time it's just the two of us. How exciting.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's going to be a really interesting one this time because we have the amazing Olivia Roth with us today. Olivia has got so much experience and so much of a story to share with us for her backstory and also what she is working on. So I am not going to spoil it too much. I'm just going to invite her in right now. Good morning, Philip. Good morning, Olivia.
Morning, Linda. Morning, Philippa.
Hi, how are you?
Really good. Thank you for having me. This is an amazing opportunity. Thank you.
It's absolutely a pleasure to have you because honestly, I don't think I've met anybody who I've said the words Olivia Roth to who hasn't been like, oh my goodness, she's incredible. So it's a pleasure to have you here. It really, really is.
Thank you.
So I guess sorry, by the way, for the layout because I'm still getting used to this as well. New skills all the time. So Olivia, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself first of all?
Yes. So Olivia Roth, and very importantly, and this is something our former business manager Emma Wales taught me, is that I'm a mum first and foremost. So I now introduce myself as a mum to the beautiful Amy, who is an incredible young woman. And I'm incredibly proud to learn from her every day. She is pushing femininity and power forward in every step that she takes. And I just adore her. She's teaching me about feminine power every day. So I'm a mum, and of course, I'm also a wife, and I work for BSME as the CEO. And this is my 6th year in the role. I did 1 year as Chief Operating Officer, and then worked as CEO for the last 5 years. So that's where I find myself at the moment.
That's amazing. Can we ask, I think Linda was just saying, how old's your daughter?
Oh, she's 13.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
The way you talk about her makes me want a daughter.
She's
Mum of boys.
And it's just that perfect age where she's kind of coming out of childhood into adulthood. And I tell you, the next generation is going to challenge notions of patriarchy in a significant way. So yeah, she
sounds awesome.
incredible. Yeah,
she's at the perfect age at the moment to absorb all of that as well, isn't she? Like, to have those to start having those conversations, like as she's growing into being a young woman, like it's how exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's an exciting time, and I think it behooves us as adults to catch up, because young people are just so dynamic in the way that they think about roles and gender and responsibility and qualifications and what you need to be successful as a professional and as a person. We've got our work cut out for us if we want to keep up with Gen Z. I tell you that much.
Amazing.
Definitely, because it's like talking to the children that like are at school at the moment, and they just pick up skills, and they're so able to pick up skills and voice their opinion and articulate their opinion. I'm sure when I was 13, I wasn't able to do that, like in that kind of way. But they've just grown up so much, like and it's so. It's exciting, but also for me, kind of terrifying, like that they're growing up that fast. But then maybe that's just the adult lens of like me saying that. But you started off as a teacher as well, though.
Absolutely, yeah. So I am at my core a teacher. I'm an English teacher, and I was a secondary teacher. Respect to early years foundation stage practitioners. I just think how they work with the youngest of our students is incredible. So I've worked in primary and secondary, but I trained as a secondary English teacher, media studies, citizenship, the usual things we all get pulled into teaching. So taught for a long time, and then I moved into a local authority consultancy role back in the days when every local authority appointed a team of consultants to work with schools in challenging circumstances for the most part. But of course, we worked with schools across the city or across the local authority. And that was an incredibly steep learning curve for anyone who has ever done consultancy. Philippa, I know you're in and out of schools on a daily basis now. You learn as much as you teach. And I think that that's the privilege of consultancy. And after that, I moved into a regional advisor role for the DFE, the then DFES, when the national strategies was still in operation. And I spent 5.5 years working as a regional advisor for the team looking at closing the gaps. And that was an incredible experience too.
Yeah.
And then moved on back to school in leadership positions, inclusion, and so on, before moving to the region in 2012.
Wow.
And it's been an incredible 10 years in the Middle East.
That's amazing. And so are there any poignant parts of that kind of, I don't know, either turned you into different areas or kind of shaped who you are as a leader that you are today?
Yes, and I think this bears saying, because I think we've all been in a position at some point in our careers where we've questioned whether this is what we should be doing and whether we have the energy to continue doing what we're doing. Teaching is hard, and sometimes it wears us down. And one of my last roles that I had in the UK, I was just feeling exhausted. I was working in a school in incredibly challenging circumstances. And I love working in schools like that because the students are just so, man, you know, you can make a difference to their outcomes and their lives. And it's just so rewarding, but it is equally draining. It can affect you in the most negative and heartbreaking ways. And I was halfway through that academic year and I just thought, can I do this? Can I continue to serve children with this sustained energy and do what I'm doing justice and do them justice? And it was at that time when an opportunity for a deputy headship in Bahrain came up. And I thought, got nothing to lose. Fortunately, my husband's an incredibly supportive husband. We hopped on a plane for what was supposed to be a 2-year contract. And that role in that school in Bahrain, and it was a special needs school, and I've never worked specifically in special education, saved my career. And it saved who I was as a teacher, and it reinvigorated me and inspired me. And I think that for many teachers, that is the beauty of international education, is that it pulls you out of your everyday daydrum, driving to work, driving home from work, break nights, and it just kind of gives you a different lens through which you see everything that you love doing so much on a daily basis. So for me, that was my biggest pivot point in just career-wise, because I actually don't know what else I would have done, because there's nothing else I want to do, but I was worn out. So that saved me.
That's so interesting, because I feel like I did almost exactly the same thing. And I worked in the same school for 10 years and I loved it. I never thought I would leave. I thought it was literally my first and only forever school. And as you say, like I had some students that it was spectrums and inner city, and you know, you had some children who it would just break your heart, like could barely even write their name when they were doing their GCSEs, and then some who would just excel and you just wanted the best for them. And you know, you only have so much support you can give. And exactly the same, I just felt like I there was only a certain amount of time that you can do that for. And that's what we did. We came out for a holiday in the half term. We were like, right, okay, let's go and live here. And it changed my whole perspective, and I feel really grateful for having the opportunity. And I think that's exactly right. You say, you know, it just allowed you to say, you know what, this is a new fresh start. And that must have been, I mean, what you're talking about, your experiences that you've had working for authorities, but also in school and leadership, I guess that's what's brought you to where you are right now with BSME.
Yeah, and I mean, what a privilege to have worked with 150 schools across the region in such a variety of contexts. And I mean, we've grown significantly over the last 5.5 years, over 60%. We've strengthened all of our accreditation. So, we're ensuring that this network of high quality schools maintains that high quality. I think our brand strength in the region has just blossomed and grown. We've gained the confidence of schools, and we've gained the confidence of our business partners, because of course we also have a whole community of business partners that support the organization and support our schools. And what a privilege this role has been. And I just think that every role I've been in has just been such a trajectory of just learning new things. But yeah, I've loved every moment at BSME.
I think the idea that BSME not only supports schools, but it's supporting the teachers as well, and it's it creates that group for international teachers where you're not alone. And the theme of being, I guess, having to change because you're emotionally drained, a big part of that is do you have someone to talk to? And I know that moving from Qatar to Kuwait to Dubai, the thing that I started looking for specifically was, is it a BSME school? Is it somewhere where I would get that kind of stuff? I genuinely, I've got my own story there, but that's perhaps for later on. But is it a BSME school, and is there going to be a supportive network there, and what are they going to do to help, kind of thing?
And also, are they going to uphold those standards that you've set out for them? And actually knowing that you're an educator going to school where you're going to be regulated by someone like BSME can be really important. It is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Linda, what you were saying there, of course, remember that some of our schools in Saudi, for example, are hundreds of kilometers from any other schools. And if you're the only DT teacher in a small school, who do you have to draw on? And I have to say that one of the services we've been proudest of developing have been our networks, and we've got 21 networks running this year, and we're adding 2 next year. But that really, and I'd love to take this opportunity just to honor him, the late Chris Mantz, who is the former principal of British International School, Riyadh, and pushed us and encouraged us to create these networks every time we met as an executive. And the day that we launched those, unfortunately, he was no longer with us, but it was just such a proud moment to honor
his legacy.
His legacy, but that intuition that he'd had to support staff in BSME schools, regardless of their geographic location. And I think that's what you were alluding to, Linda.
Yes, because we talk quite a lot about how our children are kind of nomads and have quite a transient online and offline presence, especially in international schools. But you can't forget that teachers also move around so much as well, here, and to be part of that network is meaningful to them, and really kind of helps them with standards as well, like what you said, Philippa. But the thing is, for me, if I go into, I don't know, if I went into a school which wasn't that regulated, I would find that so stressful. So part of supporting for me is knowing what standard. And if it's a BSME school, it's a BSME standard, and it's
absolutely
that's important.
Yeah. And I think thinking about children as well, the amount of things that are there for them as well. I have 2 children in a BSME school, and the sports that they're able to be part of as a community within the Middle East is also incredible.
And it is a community. And I think the thing that we're chuffed with as well is that we've just grown our engagement. So our engagement has grown by between 60 and 150% in the last 5 years. And we're just delighted with that, because it really means that the ethos of by the members, for the members, is being lived out. It's not just an ethos that's on the wall somewhere or in a document. It's actually part of the way that we operate. And I think that that's a point of pride for us, really.
So that ties into a lot of, because I mean, your members, it needs to be like a school when they join BSME, that's from their leadership. And you just said that, you know, your kind of leadership of BSME it's like a culture, right? So like, you know, is there anything in particular that like, you know, you'd advise like, you know, leaders of schools to follow or to kind of to create that positive culture? Or
almost like that was a planned segue. Look at that.
Oh, Brene Brown.
One of the books that I've been just kind of sampling, and I say sampling because it's a lot to get your head around all in one go, is Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. And right on the cover, it alludes to brave work, tough conversations, and whole hearts. And there's that wonderful quote of hers that if you want to develop a culture where you want brave work, tough conversations, and whole hearts, then you really can't have anyone having their armor up because they're afraid of being brave or having those tough conversations or bringing their whole selves to anything that they do when they're at their place of work. And I think that's just what we've focused on, relationships. It's all about people, and it's about the work, and it's about service. And when you bring those three things together, you've got this incredibly powerful trifecta that just makes everyone feel valued, heard, seen, supported. It's just a beautiful coming together. But of course, you first have to do the hard work, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really hard to get people, especially there's definitely always that fear of failure. I think one of my favorite books is all about that. And I think it says Leaders Eat Last, and all, you know, all the Simon Sinek books and things like that. And just kind of that idea that it took me such a long time to realize that actually that would help me, is to have those hard conversations will help me have the next conversation and actually develop and progress as a leader. Because without that, you know, if you can't have a hard conversation with your staff, how can you expect them to have hard conversations with parents, with children? And actually the reality is that in education we have to have those conversations with each other, because otherwise how are we ever going to get to the next stage in what we want to do, whether it's leadership, whether it's the school progress, whether it's just progress in a subject. And I think that is something that's definitely been one of the biggest things for me was kind of brave conversations. What's the worst that could happen? That's my motto.
But we were saying before we came on air, is we were talking about soapbox issues, and I was saying I have a couple of soapbox issues at the moment. Well, Philippa, you hit one on the head, because for me, the extent to which we are afraid to make mistakes and we're afraid of being brave doesn't just hold us back, it holds everyone that we are serving back. It holds our organizations back, whether that's a school or a company or a membership group like ours. It holds everyone back that looks to us to be brave or to be willing to make a mistake. So I had the most interesting conversation with another woman leader that I met for the first time in Dubai a few weeks back. And she said, you know, the company she works for, her line manager says, give it a go. If you fail, we'll catch you. And I just thought, why don't we say that? Why don't we say that enough? Why don't we say that explicitly at the beginning of performance management meetings, so that people know that they're allowed to be brave, that they're allowed to take risks, that they can make mistakes, and that apart from putting a child in danger, that nothing will go wrong if we
caveat there
and we take risks. So thank you for approaching that.
And I absolutely, it was probably one of the things for me that was the biggest turning point in going from being a teacher and a middle leader into being a senior leader, because I remember reading all those books, but it was actually my husband that said, he was like, what is the worst thing? Like, you will come out that, you might feel a bit rubbish, you might have been scared, you know, because I often get quite nervous and anxious with confrontational kind of topics, but realistically, you've got to have them, otherwise it will get worse. Or the opposite side of that as a leader is that you end up doing everything because you daren't have that conversation to say to somebody, this is your job. And actually, you know what, maybe they didn't know, maybe they, you know, or maybe they need to have that conversation, and maybe that made them feel better as well. And I think we always think about what we're thinking internally, right? And we don't necessarily always think about that other person's perspective, and it isn't always necessarily as negative as we perhaps think. And how will we ever grow if we don't get told that we're not doing something right?
Quite right. So sorry, Linda, I know that I've jumped on my soapbox a little early there.
Is there another soapbox though? Did you say you had 2 soapboxes?
I do have another soapbox issue, and this is a big one. And for women, I think that, you know, I'm just beyond the point of even entertaining this. I've had slap the wrist conversations with a number of women that I respect, that are doing incredible things in education. So I'll be moving on beyond the region at the end of the year. And so a number of women have approached me to say, I had to look at the essential and the desirable elements of the role, and there's just no way I could do it. And I would be thinking, what? How many of them couldn't you do? Oh no, there was one thing I can't do. There's one thing I can't evidence. So there's really no point in me applying for this role. And the number of times that I have heard myself, women that don't go for jobs because there's 1 or 2 things on that list of essential characteristics that you need to apply for the job. And it's funny. So I had this conversation with my husband. I said, so when you apply for jobs, like, what's the split? Is it like 20-20? And he was like, you just get a feel for it. If you think you'll be able to do it, then you go for it. If you don't get it, then it makes no difference. And I just thought, do you know what? We can learn from that, because we need to put ourselves in those positions of leadership. And if we're not putting ourselves there, no one else is going to do that for us. Indeed. So I think that probably links back to us being a bit braver as women and not being so hard on ourselves, because we're incredible. We can do anything. And yet we are put off by a single little description on an essential list of characteristics.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes, no, they're so relevant. And in fact, I remember having a conversation with Vic, one of our other founders of Wii Edu, about this a few weeks ago, because it's that kind of time, isn't it, of people applying for jobs. And we always kind of end up having this Wii Edu conversation, don't we, Linda, about like, should we do a post about, you know, people leaving, moving on, and any top tips? And obviously this week, one of the things that we did do was about your CV, like what's the covering letter, what should you have? And it had some brilliant responses, some actually incredible things. But I do think we do find that we can't sell ourselves, and I find that I totally put my hands up. I'm terrible. I can't do it at all. And you know, have to rely on other people kind of telling me where to improve things, because I just find it really hard. But also there's something about, and I probably have got the statistics totally wrong, but a man will apply for a job if he has 60% or 40%, whereas a woman will do it if she has 99% of the skills. But and that's not even like the essentials, right? It's the desirables as well. They have to tick like every single box. And I'm like, oh no, and I couldn't do that possibly.
But the thing is, if it is like we keep saying to all of our students, like, oh, like the jobs that are here now, and well, either are not going to be there, or there's going to be jobs in the future that don't even exist at the moment. So how are we as adults expected to tick every single box? Why do we hold ourselves up to that standard? It's ridiculous. Like, because I'm in a job at the moment that I'm really, really proud of my organisation for opening up the job of innovation lead, because it's a completely new job. But then that means that because it's a completely new job, it's a completely new job description. So like, am I a perfect fit for that job? No. have I developed to make myself a perfect fit for my organisation? I hope so, yes. And that's the way we should be looking at it as women. But I know that that's been an absolutely terrifying thing to do.
Yeah. And
So,
it's interesting you say that, because imagine your job when you do move on eventually. Like Olivia, you were saying, 6 years in the role. I bet the job description wasn't what it is now as to what it is then. And
yeah. How long is a piece of string? And that's right. If it's not developmental, then you're stuck and you're not making a difference and you're not having an impact and you're not growing. So Linda, you're right. We just need to stop being so hard on ourselves. And I think we have to learn to model what we are teaching, because we're not doing that very well, are we? Again, I think the Gen Zers are going to be the bane of our lives, because they think they can do everything before they can. And that's great. And I see it in my daughter. But no, I want us to be braver, and I want us to believe that we can do the things we know we can do.
Yes.
No, definitely. And I think, Linda, you need to start listing down all the things that you do right now so that you remember it when you have to pass it on to the next person.
Yeah, I said that. I said that whole thing there, like feeling all brave and stuff, because I'm talking to you both, but like knowing that there's been many an evening conversation with Philippa.
We all do it, don't we?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and that's essentially why we've got to keep talking about it.
So go on. I was going to ask Olivia, sorry. I was going to say, from that conversation, is there anyone that comes to mind that you have just thought they're my absolute leadership icon? Somebody, not necessarily icon, but someone who you aspire to be, traits of things that you've seen of them that have just really rubbed off on you and really kind of resonated as with you as a female leader. Is there anyone that springs to mind?
Yeah, so gosh, I've been in so many roles. And initially I was thinking just of women that have inspired me. But of course, there've been men that I've just learned so much from as I've gone from one role to another. But I'll mention, first of all, Siobhan Doran. So Siobhan is...
Amazing, sorry.
Siobhan is... I'm always fangirling about Siobhan, because Siobhan embodies for me what I would like to be able to be like one day, in the sense that Siobhan does not suffer fools. She knows exactly what education is about. It's about serving children. And if anything that comes across her table does not meet that criteria, then what are we doing it for? And I think that very black and white approach to what we spend our time on, I learned a lot of that from Siobhan. So always indebted to Siobhan. And then, of course, I don't know if either of you have met Jane Larson. So Jane is the executive director of CIS, but she also chairs the International Task Force on Child Protection. And Jane created that group with a range of other founding members based on a very painful experience. And that group has served children in international education incredibly well. And Jane just leads that with such integrity. And if you've ever heard Jane speak, she doesn't have to command respect. It just flows to her. She has a gentleness about her that is just admirable for what she's achieved with her organization as well. And then, of course, so many other women. And recently I read a little quote, and I can't remember who it was by, so I apologize, but it had the phrase, "the shoulders of the woman I stand on." And I just think we need to stand on the shoulders of other women, and we need to be the shoulders that other women stand on too. We need...
leading through lifting. Like if you're in a position of leadership, you've got to lift up other people, with you, and that kind of culture. you know,
and then
with Siobhan,
and there's that
she
thing in my
does
head
that.
is just
Yeah.
come of them standing on and then the hand that raises that goes down to pull another woman up,
Exactly.
and then it gets taller, right? Yeah, it's amazing.
But, you know, I think as women, we always need to be conscious of the fact that, you know, some of my biggest supporters have been the men that have led, and the men that have the men that I have led. You know, that notion of leading from behind. You know, I don't want us to get caught up in a gender divide around leadership and what good leadership looks like, because I work with incredible men in education that really I respect so much. And yeah, I think we need to learn skills from wherever we can find them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think like we all have, I guess, like that special like mentor in our head, and like whether that is, I mean, like you have more than one mentor in your life, and I have just as many male mentors as I do female mentors, and you learn different things from different people. But the thing that I've learned from all of my mentors is to be like, you know, is their commitment, you know, and that doesn't matter what your gender is, like just in commitment and integrity and like, you know, those kinds of values. Like, of course, like, you know, they're going to be admirable, like for the people that like they're great to work with, but also like, you know, they're so inspirational as well. Like, but yes, Siobhan,
and that's what makes them great leaders, isn't it?
Yes.
It's what makes those people great leaders, though, isn't it? It's what they don't see gender, they don't see anything like that. They just see somebody who's good and is in it for the right reasons and who has value and adds value to their organization. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go on, Linda.
So you said that you have another book. Yes. So would you like to talk about your other book?
Yeah. So I do love a good book, and at the moment I'm doing my MBA in educational leadership, and so it just gives me an excuse to buy books constantly, and my husband will just look at the Amazon packages at the door for my studies, you know. So I think one of the ones that I would recommend to everyone that works in education, if you haven't read Multipliers, and the follow-up book to this, it's by Liz Wiseman, and this is the principle that you can increase your outcomes sixfold without spending an extra penny. And when I saw that as a premise, I thought, what kind of a leader do you have to be to increase things sixfold without spending money? But you know what? I have used this as kind of a Bible. And Liz is really good at outlining the different types of characters and personalities that you have in your school, that you have in your organizations, and what they bring or what they detract from your success. So that's an absolute 100% must read. This one, you can just about see it there, Quiet by Susan Cain. The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And for me, this is my acknowledge book. This is my justify me book, because I'm an extreme introvert. And as you know, it's difficult leading when you're an introvert. You have to prove yourself in all sorts of ways when you're not that big voice personality around a boardroom table.
Yeah, I think I need that one.
Yeah, I think I might need it to understand what it's like to not be someone who talks all the time.
And Philip, you know what? That's probably the most sensible thing you've ever said, because my best friend is an extrovert and we just don't get each other, because she just thrives on the energy. And by the time we've had a coffee together, I'm just about dragging myself off. So, but you know, you need the balance. You need the introvert-extrovert balance for that perfect coming together of personalities and energies and dynamics and momentum. So it's all good. But for a very long time, I didn't feel like I could lead effectively because I was an introvert. And I think that this just turns that notion on its head. And look, it's a major digression from that mainstream perception of what powerful leadership is.
Yeah.
Powerful leadership is not the biggest voice around the boardroom table. And this book challenged me as an introvert as to how many women or males, even introverts, I had overlooked in interviews, or I didn't hear their voice. I didn't acknowledge their ideas because it wasn't the right context for them to say it.
Yeah.
And so this book challenges you whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, and you need to read it whether you're either. So, and apparently you can also be an ambivert, which is right in the middle. So
depending on context, right? So that's depending on your context. Because I know that, like, being a person who has always been a lot of an introvert, that one, I've always gravitated towards extroverts as friends. Hey, Philippa. Because it is that kind of dynamic that you have, like, together, and you can, if in the right context, like, bounce ideas off each other, and you get different perspectives. But also, I know that as a teacher, when I was a science teacher and I had to do 6 hours of being like the loudest, the most amazing, like, science is great kind of thing, I'll go back home. I'm not even kidding. I used to go back home and sit with my rabbits who are silent. I bought them as pets for a reason, and just sit in silence and just be like, what just happened?
It is incredibly challenging because it just drains all of your social energy, and then you don't have time to live life, or the energy to live life, because you've just spent it all on 30 times 6 young people.
But that obviously does not mean that it's that we don't have ideas, and to be innovation lead in a school when I have a quiet voice is difficult. But
although there is something said that's you should always be wary of the person who's being quiet in the boardroom,
because they're taking notes and they're listening.
They are.
We're the ones that are listening.
Well, it's true, right? They're probably sitting, thinking, formulating, bringing all the many pieces of the puzzle together, testing that, breaking it apart again, putting it back in a different format, seeing whether that works better. And the fact that it had never occurred to me when I do similar things, asking me for a response on the spot, you're not going to get the best from me. Give me some time to go away, write it down, write it out, rewrite it, think it through, sleep on it, and then ask me for a response. So I just wanted to big up women who are introverts. Go and read yourself some Susan Cain. It's incredible. And then the only other book that I can't not flag is Leading Without Authority. And at some point, I did think that this is what I was doing. But actually, I think what I was doing was more akin to the work that Jim Collins calls level 5 leadership. And I would encourage everyone to go and read Jim Collins' work, Good to Great, because that's what we all want for our schools. That's what we all want for our organizations. We want to take all of that good and make it really exceptional. And the only way you can do that is having a leader that's a very specific personality type. And his research showed that over thousands of companies and a number of years. So it's what I strive for daily, level 5 leadership. Go and have a look. It's incredibly interesting. But what he says is it's a mix of personal humility and professional will. And that combination absolutely makes good things, great things. So those were the books I share with you.
Got a new Amazon list. Thank you.
Yes, I think my new director is, I won't embarrass him by saying his name, but like, he's a massive fan of the last book. Like, is it good to great? Because he was like, when he did his introductions, he was just like, read this, you must read this book and stuff like. So I was okay. So now you said it as well. Like, I have to put it on my Amazon.
You have to. Absolutely. No, I've definitely heard some people talk about it.
Yeah, and the good to great concept is so wonderful, because regardless of whether you're at level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, you are contributing in an impactful way. So it's not that one is less than 5, but 5 is what I'm striving for as a leader.
Yeah, amazing. That's brilliant. I love that. Really lovely. Thank you so much, Olivia. It's been so wonderful to have you here and to talk to you. I feel like I've learned a lot about different types of leadership mainly, and I guess that's because you've had such a wealth of your own history of kind of your different jobs and your resume, but also the people that you get to work with now. You must have some amazing insights into different people and different personalities that really make things work. So thank you so much for sharing that with Wii Edu.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on. I've absolutely loved it.
I think I'm very much looking forward to meeting you in May.
Yes, it's going to be exciting.
Part of the conference. So thank you very much.
Because of course, Linda, you'll be in attendance, and Philippa, you'll be coming to share your amazing new book with us.
Yay! I know, I'm very excited.
Thank
you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Well, tables will turn.
And with that, I think we will announce our next Wii Edu breakfast very soon, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.